What's up, YouTube? The Last Musketeer here, coming at you with the very first episode of the Diablo Immortal free-to-play Is It Worth It series. Now, this game is going to be a bit bittersweet for me, as the Diablo series was a series that I've grown up with and have loved for many years. I actually remember the first time that I saw Diablo was watching my dad play, and we had these two little speakers set up, which was perfect because I could feel the ambiance, I could hear the music as it's being played, the screams as you're going through the dungeon that really grip you in and show you the darkness of the game, the grittiness. And playing Diablo for the first time and being sucked into that ambiance was a life-changing experience for me. Before then, I had really only played Mario or Donkey Kong Country, both great games, both great series in their own rights. But they were cute and colorful, and while I still enjoy the games today, they didn't have that impact that Diablo had on me. And for me, Diablo was life-changing. Walking through the town with the beautiful Tristram theme playing and greeting all the townspeople, getting scammed by Wirt the Peddler, and then walking over to the dungeon entrance for the very first time. And immediately on entry, I was frozen in place. The music, the eerie sounds in the background, the sounds of the monsters, everything was just, it was a lot all at once, and I gotta say, exhilarating. My heart was pumping, adrenaline was kicking in, and it felt almost like a fight or flight situation because this was a whole new experience for me. Never before had I been pushed to a point where bravery was out of the question. Yeah, I'd watched my dad play it and I'd heard the sounds there, but when you're experiencing it for yourself, everything was so captivating. I remember eventually working up the courage as I'm going through the dungeon and slaying monsters left and right, and I'm getting better gear, and I'm feeling unstoppable. And then my confidence is at an all-time high, and I don't feel like anything can stop me at this point. I'm just running through everything. I'm probably on the 3rd floor of the dungeon. It's going so smooth, what else could I fear? And then I run up on this square room that's just sitting out of place in the middle of the floor of this dungeon. It's got one entrance and you can't see what's behind it, but it made me stop and worry about what's actually going to come out of that door. But up until that point, I had been running through everything, and what could possibly stop me? So I walk up to the door and I opened it, and the first thing you hear is
fresh meat.
So as any sane kid would do, I immediately shut the game off and walked away. And eventually I worked up the courage and I beat the game, but the point in all of this spiel is that this is not the Diablo experience that I was hoping for. Yeah, it's got decent gameplay, especially for a mobile game. I'd say it's probably at the top as far as the feeling of the game, the lore, in the hack and slash RPG sense, maybe even just the RPG sense. I haven't played too many of those on the phone, but as for me, it just seems kind of unnecessary. Why put forth the effort of making this game and having it free to play if you're only going to put pay to win features in it for the first time in the history of the franchise? Why not release the game at a cash amount of like $10 or something, and if you needed more for the budgeting or you wanted to expand on what you've made so far, you could put cosmetics in the game. But all that aside, I want to quit ranting and just talk about the gameplay itself. Now, it is fairly engaging. The Diablo 3 style does work here. This is going to be a first experience for some people. Diablo 4 is somewhat going to be mixed between 2 and 3, I would imagine. They've got some of the people that have spent tons of hours, tens of thousands of hours probably, in Diablo 2, kind of leading how they want the gameplay to feel. So I got good hope for that, and I know they're going to expand upon the combat of Diablo 2 while keeping the graphic style that Diablo 3 had, just a little grittier from what I've seen. The main point that I need to go over in this is that while most of this, and I'm sure probably all the game at free-to-play, you could be somewhat competitive in this, but do keep in mind, as it comes to in-game, there are relic packs that you can use to add to your rifts that gives them different modifiers, but also gives you guaranteed chances of getting legendary runes. And that's where I'm having a bit of a problem. So, early game, mid game, probably pretty quick. I'm sure you could advance quite far, and while I'm hoping that in-game does have that normal Diablo 3 feel where I can just grind and grind and grind, and it gives me somewhat of an incentive to keep getting better gear, I can't help but think that the people that are buying the packs and getting those guaranteed drops are just going to pull so far ahead that I have no chance of catching up. So what we are going to do now is I'm going to finish fighting this boss, and we're going to jump into some of the shop menus and then into the season pass, just so I can show off kind of the vibes that they're giving off to me right now. But as you can see, they've got some beginner packs, that part being a cosmetic, which I think is great. But the other part of the pack was the Eternal Gemstones, and what those seem to be used for is basically everything that you can purchase out of the store. Are these earnable by regular players? Maybe it's a currency you can spend if you sell to other players. I'm not quite sure how they have it set up yet. As I learn more, I'll let you in on more details on that, but 99 cents for the first one, you know, and as we come to the cosmetics page, these have some beautiful cosmetics, as I would expect from a Diablo game. And granted, I am going in blind, so I don't know exactly how well the spending for those crests roll, or if you're always going to get something good out of it. I don't know if how gambly it feels, but either way, I think it was an oversight by them. I think they had good intentions originally, somewhat anyway. I know they are a big company, they have to make money off of it, but they could have done so much more with cosmetics or mounts even, to really just make the game feel like it's not a competitive disadvantage. And here we are at the first level of the season pass, and for $5 you can unlock the premium part of it, or empowered as it's called, and you get a cosmetic and a legendary gem straight off. A bit of a disappointment, because that just means that anyone that buys that right away is going to have a bit of an advantage over you. Maybe they kill stuff a little bit faster, regardless of what it is. When it comes to Diablo, and especially when it comes to like mid to late game, the amount of time that you have to spend outside of a rift upgrading gear, or in this case upgrading legendary gems to be able to progress further, automatically just puts you in at a disadvantage. And I'm not sure about the keys exactly. I understand they unlock some chest, it says. I don't know what comes out of that. Maybe it's legendary gear, which is another huge disadvantage for free to play. But overall, if it doesn't affect me too much, later on I won't care as much. I'll give it a little less grief as time goes on. But we're going into our first dungeon, and this I can be excited about, and it kind of allows me to gauge the difficulty that I'm going to experience as a free to play. I don't know how much harder it's going to be for me compared to others. Maybe early game there's not that much of an advantage, late game possibly, and other players that are spending are playing with other players that are spending, and so their progress gets immediately amplified. So yeah, if you can't get the right squad together, there's potential that, you know, with the time it takes you to clear things, that you are going to fall behind fairly quickly. And you know, maybe that's not the case. Maybe if you have enough knowledge of prior Diablo games, you can kind of rocket your way to the top. But as it seems so far, I'm liking the fights. It does feel very much like Diablo 3, but at the same time it's almost too easy right now. So I'm sure as time goes on, it may get a little bit harder. It is a bit strange walking around and trying to dodge abilities. So I'll see like the blue line when he tries to do that charge up attack, and sometimes I'll be clicking, you know, a good, what feels like 2 inches away from the actual monster, and I'll just kind of run straight into it and to attack it. So I'm I'm having to resort to using my whirlwind as a way to kind of get through the mobs and get around them so I don't take heavy damage. It's a bit hard to do this stuff. I should look into my options more and maybe perhaps find something that allows to walk without attacking, but once again, this is something I'm new to still. I'm going in blind. Now this part I do like, because as expected, the visuals are nice. The skeletal wraith floating on the underside of this glass is actually a really cool effect. I do like that. He follows you to the end, and then you fight him at this doorway here. I'm going to finish this boss fight and kind of let the rest of the dungeon play out and kind of give my thoughts after of what I think about the dungeon, because I don't want to speak too much on it, and I just want to speed it up and let you kind of see what it looks like, and I will see you there. So here we are getting to the end of the boss fight, and it was a pretty nice one. Leoric is a boss I've fought many times in Diablo 3, so it's kind of not that new of an experience for me, but it was still a good boss fight and decent rewards. But I'm going to let this one play out, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.